Hey, how we doing? Something different here. Gonna try and do a bit of a race recap for the past week. So yeah, we're here in the garage, and we're gonna be taking a look at the Spa SOF broadcast race, which happened on my Sunday, Saturday night for most of Europe and US. And as part of that, like the race that happened the day before that sort of set this whole thing up. So thanks for joining us. It's going to try something different. I think each week it'd be good to sort of go over the race, talk about some strategy, what went right, what went wrong, especially this last week when a bunch went wrong in one race and a bunch went right in the other race. So first off, take a little bit of a look. Um, I've got a couple of replays queued up here. The first one was a race that had five DFR members in it, and as you can sort of see here, um, four of us qualified, one, two, three, four. A bit of a spread, up to 1.3 seconds down to Ollie, but it sort of set us up for a race and some incidents that probably shouldn't have happened here. But you can see his top four here. And I'll just play this through and then we'll sort of go back over and analyze what went wrong. But so you can see here, Ollie got a great getaway. He's sort of side by side with Ed going into Eau Rouge. He's backed off a little bit. I've sort of hung back a bit, and I'm catching a great slipstream down to turn one. Just down to Lacombe. And this always happens. And at this stage right here, no one knows what's sort of happening, and that's when it all went wrong. I You can see I ended up losing the rear and taking out all of my team, almost all of my team. So you can see I'm coming in here. My intention actually wasn't to try and challenge Eddie for the lead here. I essentially was trying to just hold my P2, which is where I started, but you can see I've got up on the curb, and that's when I've started to lose the rear. So this was on the my Saturday, so the day before the big race, and um, yeah, not a great start. It was my first race of the week, and I'll sort of go back and talk about, I guess, what kicked this whole thing off. Um, so yeah, we start pretty standard. As I mentioned before, the the qualifying, I was 3/10 to Ed. Ollie starting behind me was about 1.3 seconds off. Um, and this sort of, I guess, is what triggered it all. Ollie gets a great start. I think he has dual clutch, so he's got a great start off the line. He's taken Midge on the right. Um, and right here, I could see him in my mirrors that he's coming up quickly. And T1 here is notorious for people, you know, going a bit deep. There's always, incidents and whatnot here. So I'm thinking at this stage, if I go into my cockpit view, I'm thinking this stage go a bit deeper. Oh, that's not so good. Um, Maybe just chase here. I'm thinking just go a bit deeper, just in case Ollie can't slow down quite enough. He's got a lot of speed there, but he does well to sort of keep to the inside. Um, and he's coming out perfectly. Like as I said, he's essentially side by side with Ed. So it's sort of, I think that start, that poor start from my point of view, um, compromised where I was, but I had a great slipstream here, and I was thinking, I guess I could just get back my P2, especially given the big delta, a second in pace. Um, and you can see just up here, Ollie was very lucky. Ed starts to come across. Whoop, sorry, I'll just go back a little bit. Ed starts to come across, and Ollie's in the dirt there. Um, so it's sort of very lucky that more didn't come of there. But anyway, maybe not lucky for me. But then I was behind, and I thought um, I had plenty of time to sort of get on the brakes and get in. But at Spa, you qualify in high downforce trim, and you typically race in medium downforce trim. At least that's the quickest way I've found, and a lot of the top guys do that these days. And the transition between high and medium downforce is quite hard, and I was still very much in my high downforce attacking mode, like being able to take a curb is usually no problems in high downforce, but I've just taken a little bit too much curb. I was a bit concerned that Ed was going to keep turning in on me because he mightn't have seen me there, so that's why I've taken more curb. But I mean, this is totally 100% my fault. Taking out Ed and then unfortunately Ollie, but Ollie managed to continue and coming P2. Ed unfortunately didn't. You can see my car is absolutely ruined there. So not a good start to the the weekend and all the races. It caused a lot of a lot of problems there. So anyway, I'm gonna go back to the next race, which is the broadcast race on a Sunday. So this is um, the main the main race for the week. That everything kind of leads up to that race, and sort of start off by just checking out quali results. I won't go through sort of the quali laps, but I managed to qualify P3, just ahead of Ludovic by what is that? 2/100ths, um, and that was pretty important, as we'll go into. Um, and Eddie just didn't quite manage to get P1. Carlos had a great lap. I think my quali lap I left a tenth, a little bit, tenth and a little bit maybe in there, but it was a pretty decent lap anyway. But here at Spa, I mean, starting P1, it's very hard, as we just sort of shown. It's such a long run down from turn one at what is that? La Source, turn one down to Lacombe, which is I can't remember, turn 3 or 4. Um, you it's almost better to start in P3 or 4. It's such a long drag, so we'll just go to the start of the race now. So we jump in, and let's watch again because it's sort of interesting. Um, the adjustments that I had to make after the big incident the day before, and qualifying here, I was just super nervous going into this race because again, I didn't want to take out Ed, and I wanted to get a good, gives a chance to get another good result. So very nervous right now. And anyway, let's play this through, and then we can sort of talk about some other key parts of the race here. So I've got a great start. So much so, I was sort of more thinking about covering off the guys behind me as well, making sure that they couldn't dive bomb me on the inside. And here tended to be, as we saw from Ollie's great start, that if you took the inside, you could kind of come out ahead, even if the outside should be quicker because you could take more speed, but the inside has proved to be quicker here, and I've come out side by side with Ed here. So again, flashbacks to Nam right now. So I was like, oh, Ed, I was on comms. I was saying, Ed, you have it, and right now, I was just knowing what was happening ahead. I was, as you can see, I've moved out of the slipstream, which is typically you don't want to do that, but I just didn't want to get too close to a point where, again, put in a difficult position. And fortunately, I was far enough ahead of Robor to, for him not to play a part in this. He's catching me here, but that's only because I'm lifting. And what made it easier for me to do this is he's actually running high downforce, and that's going to sort of play into it a little bit more here. You can see here Ed had a great run and managed to hang on around the outside. And as I said, starting P1 here is actually a bit more of a curse than anything. So now that I've had they've got through safely, I've decided, now I can sort of start to close up. But Carlos ahead had a really bad second, part of this Lacombe complex, and I've got very close there. You can see I've, managed to avoid it, but I've come very, very close, luckily, and then Rob Bohr comes very close to me, and I could see he wanted to maybe slip in down the inside here, and I've jerked across a little bit just to make him think twice about that. Luckily, that worked, and he didn't go into the back of me. But here is like vital for the guys that are running high downforce is they need to make inroads into this sector here, because otherwise it's going to be very hard for them to catch me on the straights. And here you can see again he's gone thinking about diving to the inside. I've managed to cover it, but again it's been very close. And this right here between Ludovic and Rob is, oh man, it's crazy that they didn't hit each other here. But I'll sort of take a bit of a different angle on that. Like, geez, that is so close. That very, very lucky. So great job to iRacing for the new netcode, because I think in the past that you would have been probably sent to the moon with that one. That was very close. But so I've made it through that first part, and I've got a bit of a gap on Rob. These are the parts here that usually the high downforce guys can make up on you. I've taken the off track and Puon just to keep a bit of a just to keep the speed up, especially for the first lap. It's so easy to push them wide. But here's another. Ludovic is so aggressive here on Rob. He's gone sort of fake the outside, dive to the inside. Pretty ambitious here. They've done well racing side by side with each other. But this is, for me, this is awesome to see, because it means that they're going to be holding each other up. I can just sort of not drive too aggressively to try and keep my position. Again, especially on the first lap, medium downforce here. It's really, man, the transition between high and medium is really tough. So I was looking in my mirrors thinking, thank goodness for that. And Ludovic doesn't manage to get past. And right here, this is where you'll see the power of the medium downforce versus high downforce. You can just see I'm starting to pull a gap. Like Rob's 5/10 now, 6/10 from me, and I'm still pulling 7/10, and they're just hitting the limiter, both of them, 8/10. This is where they'll start to catch up because they can brake so much later. Ludovic again, another big dive bomb, goes a bit too deep. And still they're fighting, which is, I mean, I'm so happy because I'm almost a second ahead, which I'm not sure if you can hear that. I'm going to turn off the audio there. But yeah, so after the first lap is just done. Um, I'm really happy. Second ahead of P4. Um, Carlos, what's he about 8 tenths ahead of me, so there's a bit of a gap there. But I'm still within the 1 second range, which is typically the draft range is between 8 tenths to 1.1 seconds. That you pick up a bit of a toe, so I'm still well within range. Um, and after right now, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to use a couple DRS, try and again put some distance between myself and the guys behind, not necessarily catch up ahead, but just again to secure the P3. Um, and although it doesn't make a load of difference here, I can use DRS from turn one, La Source, all the way down to Lacombe. So it's such a long straight. Um, we'll just quickly look at again these two tussling into this corner, and personally, I think Rob made a mistake here by attacking and overtaking again. Like you're going to just get re-overtaken coming back down this long straight. The draft is super powerful, and you're just getting a tow. You're getting free lap time. So if I was Rob there, I probably would have sat behind, took the tow, and overtaken into La Source, and then been able to defend in the middle sector and tried to pull a gap. That's sort of typically the ploy you would use. The other thing that makes this lap here tricky is they've got Jason behind is running medium downforce. The problem he has here is he's actually a bit too close to the guys ahead, and it means he's going to have to lift, either here in Eau Rouge or top of Radion, um, which just stops some of his momentum. So if you're watching and racing in this, if you get in this situation, back off sooner. So I would have said back at turn one, I would have been lifting probably, I think ideal here. I would have been sort of feathering here. He's what, 2 tenths? Yeah, well too close. So I probably would have been letting at least half a second in front. And it seems like a lot you're giving away, but what it does mean is that you get to sort of floor it, keep all your speed at the top here, and hopefully, hopefully you just get to breeze by. Now you'll see actually that's exactly what um, that's exactly what Dennis has done. That's like Dennis was in the perfect range, and you can see how far back he was. Um, he was about half a second behind, and you'll just see what a difference it makes for him versus Jason. And he's just able to keep his foot down, and the speed he's carrying at the top. I mean, he's almost going past all of these guys. He's just got that much overspeed here. And I think if Jason had have done that, Jason would have been able to get past. And unfortunately, he sort of got a little bit caught out. You want the move done going in there for to have a chance of defending against the high downforce guys in the sector here. So just a little tip in the future. Make sure if you want to, overtake into La Source, Lacombe. If you want to overtake in Lacombe, make sure at La Source you're half a second behind, and you don't want to be lifting in the Eau Rouge Raidillon area. You want to be sort of full throttle, just and ready to overtake them at the top of the hill. So that's really important. Um, so just going back to this, I've now sort of started to work out where Carlos has been a little bit weak. At turn one, I was about 8 tenths off him, and now I'm about 7. And this is the sector here, which I can start making up a lot of time compared to him. Um, so through these 2 turns, you'll see coming back out onto this, not straight, but it's essentially full throttle from here down to the bus stop chicane, and I'm, within 6 tenths, getting a good slipstream. He is still within Eddie's slipstream, but not quite as powerful. So I've already understood that Carlos is not quite as strong in that sector as I've been, and he's just made a pretty decent mistake there. He's just gone in a bit too deep, and that's given me a really good opportunity. So he's just sort of got a bit of angle. He's carrying a bit too much speed in there and gone a bit deep, and that's cost him a lot of time. So yeah, now I'm about 3 or 4 tenths. Now this is where I actually did employ that exactly what I was talking about. Just not trying to get too close. Not not the best entry there, but right now I'm lifting a little bit. I'm still lifting. So I started off about 4.5 tenths. I was lifting, but then I kept the foot down when I knew I had enough just to be able to take a run. I wasn't even using DRS here, and I just had enough overspeed to carry me through and make the pass, and that was it. That was sort of that easy, fortunately. Um, so I spent a couple laps. I won't dwell on every lap here because it's not a whole lot that happened. But I knew with about 8 tenths in front of him, I could hold that gap pretty well throughout the lap without having to push too much harder. So this track, again, in medium downforce, it's very easy to make mistakes. And I didn't want to push too hard and, right to my limit, because that would have cost me more lap time than just sticking with the times I was getting. And so I knew as long as I had between 6 and 8 tenths at turn one, he wasn't going to catch me through the down to Lacombe, and then that meant I was stronger. I felt in this middle sector that I could then stretch the gap back out. So, it's at half a second now, and then we'll continue through the lap, and we'll see again that this sort of stretch out again to, we're sort of 8 tenths again already, and then the stronger part here. And actually, this part is very setup dependent. So again, then he's still within the draft or the toe, clawing some time back, some free lap time. He was pretty strong under brakes there, but then again made a small mistake and it's letting me build it back out to 8 tenths to 9 tenths, and we sort of start all over again. Fortunately for me, he did end up making a mistake. So he's made a few small little mistakes there, and it's allowed me to get out to 1.3. He's out of draft range. Again, I don't need to push too much harder now. That gap, keep doing those lap times, and I'm all good. So that was essentially the race. I didn't have the pace to keep up with Ed. He was just in another league, but um, I'm just slowly putting the time in and pulling a gap. And now you can see the gap is quite big. I think, yeah, I'm sort of at 5.5 seconds. Carlos made a mistake, and that was it. So that was about it. That was my race. I after after I pulled that gap, it was just about maintaining, just putting in consistent laps. As I said, I wasn't going to catch Eddie. He just had the pace, but I wanted to make sure that, yeah, I'm not going to slip back into Carlos. And with 5 seconds advantage at lap 13, yeah, that's race done. So that was about it, and managed to bring it home in P2, starting P3. Perfect race, especially given the incidents that took place the day before. So very happy with that. And yeah, it's the second week in a row that I've gotten a podium. Actually, second week in a row that I've gotten P2. So things, starting to get some good results when it counts, which is awesome. But long way to go to catch up to the likes of Eddie, and I'm sure if James Pinsker was here, he would have been 1 or 2 as well. So I'm happy with where the pace is at. I'm beating guys like Carlos, who's 6.8k iRating, Alacron 5.1k, Rob Ball 5.4. So I'm just really happy with where things are. Still some things to improve on, especially given the crashes the day before. But that's those are learning moments, and I took that moment. I practiced a lot that day. Spent some time with the team practicing, the slipstream and that run down to turn down to Lacombe. Just to it's always chaotic and whatnot. So yeah. So that was about it. This is the first race recap. I hope it was informative. I hope it was a bit of fun. I'm going to try and do it regularly around this time every Tuesday. I know it's not an ideal time for everybody audience-wise, but you get to jump in chat if you're around. That would be cool. But I will be back streaming a proper race. We're at Bathurst this week. Unfortunately, I can't do it in my regular time, but I'll do it the day before in the usual time. And yeah, and hopefully next week I'll do the race recap from Bathurst, the broadcast race, and hopefully get to talk about another podium result. Touch wood. But yeah, until then, I hope you enjoy your week. Take care, peace, and I'll catch you next time.
Believe me when I say that I hate you. I loved you once, but I can't take the abuse. We spread our words with all grievous intent. There's no wonder why we're so discontent.